Hi there. Today I wanted to zoom out on the price of Bitcoin and show it from a sort of a different perspective. This is the logarithmic regression trend line for Bitcoin specifically. And essentially it shows it's basically a statistical tool, and it's used to help model the long-term price momentum of any given asset, in this case Bitcoin. And it's particularly useful for for assets experiencing like exponential increase in price over a given period of time, because as you can see with this upper red trend line here, it sort of curves out over time, as well as the bottom green one, it also curves out over time. And these are basically fit not manually per se, it's basically fit with a logarithmic mathematical equation, and you can essentially manually fit them to this data from the lower logarithmic regression, from the lower points to the higher points, which are the bubble values. I think this chart is really interesting in showing anyone the long-term momentum shifts of the market, because you can sort of see whenever we get up into these red territories, the bubble territories, we sort of experience these bear markets where we go back into the value zone and the neutral zone, value zone, and we always sort of consolidate for a long period of time, and we enter into an accumulation zone. And you can even see last cycle. So I've refit it to this cycle. Essentially, you can see that we hit that upper. We didn't necessarily go above it, but we got into the bubble lower and bubble upper zones here when Bitcoin hit 63K there for the first time. And you can see that even though we hit 69K around half a year later, you can see that we weren't actually anywhere close to where the value was here on the logarithmic regression trend line, because the trend line curves up with time. So I really think this chart's interesting if you sort of show the position of the logarithmic bands. So if you take the percentage difference between each band, the bubble upper, bubble lower, the non-bubble upper, which is this top green one, the fit line, which is the value line, the solid green one, and as well as the non-bubble lower. And if you take the band position of those three and you normalize it from 0 to 1 and you show it on a logarithmic scale, you can essentially see that Bitcoin sort of tops around this 0.8 to 1 log band position when you consider normalization. So back in 2013 we hit 1.10. Back in 2017 we hit 1.08, my bad. And then in 2017 we hit 1.10. In 2021 we actually hit around, let me zoom in here. The biggest value we hit was 0.99. And then if you can see this as I talked about, the logarithmic sort of curves down with time. You can see we only hit 0.91, even though the price of Bitcoin had hit an all-time high at that point of time. And then similarly, you can also see that whenever it goes into either the negative, which it only has done at the beginning of the data, just because that data was super crazy back then, the price was at a very low value, about 0.05 cents. So whenever it goes down to around 0.06 to, or 0 to 0.06 is typically when we see the accumulation zones for Bitcoin play out. And you can see in 2019 we only hit 0.16, but then during the pandemic recession we ended up going down to 0.06 there. And then in this 2022 bear market, the last one we had, we actually went down to 0.03 actually. So we got pretty close to zero in that scenario. So I also think a really interesting thing to look at, if you consider where we're at right now in terms of the log band positions, you can sort of see this level 0.6 is a really key level historically speaking, just because you can see we sort of, in 2019 we sort of came down from this level actually, and then we saw that recession. You can also see that in the 2017 bull market we actually tested it once at 0.62, and then we came down to 0.5, and then we shot up again afterwards, retaking that level of 0.6, and then you saw that mania phase in 2017. Similarly, in this cycle in 2024, we actually hit around 0.54, and now we were actually currently at 0.53. But before that, during December in 2024, right when Bitcoin first initially hit 110K, we were at sort of that 0.6 level there. And you can also see in 2021, when we had the summer decline, we actually hit 0.6, but then we bounced above it. So you can sort of see that in bull markets, we'll sort of hold this 0.6 level as support. And you can see we actually rejected it at 0.6 around in 2013 when we first had that peak. And then we came back down, retested it, and then we shot up back again. You can see the same thing kind of happened here where let me zoom in a little bit. So where we first hit 0.7, and then we came back to 0.6, held that as support, and then we hit around 1. So I think right now is a key level to look at. If you have your own logarithmic regression trend line, you can just look them up online. And this website is currently in development, so it's going to be chartinspect.com, and it's going to be up pretty soon, where you can see these charts for free here. So right now we're at 0.53. If we can't break above 0.63, and we don't get above this 110K, then you can sort of say Bitcoin might roll back around here, retest this level like it did here, here, and here. And then if we sort of zoom out up until, let's say, October, where essentially that's where, after the summer months, essentially Bitcoin starts to pick up steam. If you can see that in the monthly return charts. You can sort of see in October that we might actually sort of hold this line as support, and then maybe see an upper increase up above that 0.6 level. If you also take a look at if you divide the price by the non-bubble ratio, which is essentially the non-bubble fit level, which is the value zone right there. If you sort of show the ratio between the two, you can see it goes from 0 to 30. An interesting thing about this chart is in the first cycle we hit 30.59. In the second cycle we hit 23. So that was a sort of a seven integer decrease. Then in 2017 we hit a high of 12.13, and then in 2021 we hit a high of around 6.3, 6.27. So 30, 23, 12, 6.7. If you look at the high we've hit right now, and you're considering diminishing returns as well as diminishing returns, you can see we're currently at 2.26 for the high of this cycle, and currently we're at 1.91. Let's say that we want to draw a sort of a trend line on these values here. So if we do end up seeing those diminishing returns play out, so we hit 30 here, we hit 23 was 12 and 6.2. If you sort of draw those values there, what's this, 23, 31. So this was a decrease of around 7 points. This was a decrease of around 9 points. This was a decrease of around 6 points. Let's say we have a decrease of approximately 3 points from here. Then that would lead Bitcoin to hit around that 3 level for this non-bubble ratio divided by the price level. And that would essentially correspond to Bitcoin going to the non-bubble, the sort of in between the upper bubble level, which is currently at 253K, as well as the bubble lower, which is 112K. So that would sort of correspond to Bitcoin going to around 130K, give or take a few $10,000 or so. And if we sort of draw this trend line here, you can sort of see that this corresponds to that 3 level on the chart. And that would correspond to around 130K for Bitcoin. So that's my base case right now, at least. If you look at the charts, you can sort of see we've been holding the gold wave here, which is another chart on the website that's I programmed. You can sort of see we've held this level as support, and we actually tested it. We went underneath it here in the start of the cycle, but then we sort of broke up above it, tested it a little bit there, but yeah, you get the point. So thank you guys for watching. I'm going to stop here, and if you guys are interested in checking out any of these charts, you can join my Telegram link in the description below. The website's not out yet, but I'm still developing it. And here's a little bit of a sneak peek of the homepage. Sort of these comets going by in the background that I really like. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the content, feel free to like and subscribe and comment if you want to see more and give me your thoughts. Thanks. Bye.